Okay, peace, people. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Welcome back to another episode of Politics as Usual. Old Jaw Gritty. It's your boy Juice One Up. And don't forget to check out my book, Street Skillsy, Knock 'em Out the Box, as well as some junky apparel if you want to support the channel. I do not put up a Patreon, but I do ask for you to hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell for you to get notifications whenever I am online so you can get the most up-to-date content. All right. So we gonna get back into this, right? So we was over here, we was dealing with the charlatan, right? No. We was dealing with the crowd. So we're gonna bring it back up to what we got up on the board. Convergence theory. Right? So let's go over here. Right? Convergence theory holds that crowd behavior is not a product of the crowd, but rather the crowd is the product of the coming together of like-minded individuals. Floyd Orport argued that an individual in a crowd behaves just as he would behave alone, only more so. Convergence theory holds that crowds form from people of similar dispositions whose actions are then reinforced and intensified by the crowd. Convergence theory claims that crowd behavior is not irrational. Rather, people in crowds express existence beliefs and values so that the mob reaction is the rational product of widespread popular feeling. However, this theory is questioned in certain research, which found that people involved in the 1970 riots were less likely than non-participant peers to have previous convictions. Critics of this theory report that it still excludes the social dynamics of self and action, and that it argues that all actions of the crowd are born from the individual's intents. Right? Pardon me here. So, when you are going to any gathering, right, they believe that the gathering holds the train of thought, right? Where if you look at it from another angle, we would know that people can go into situations premeditated based on what they believe the situation is. So it's for me it's a contradiction in an oxymoron because it's both, right? Emergent norm theory, right? Ralph H. Terman and Lewis Killenham put forth the idea that norms emerge from within the crowd. Emergent norm theory states that crowds have little unity in their outset, but during a period of milling about, key members suggest appropriate actions and the following members fall in line, forming a basis of the crowd's norm. I can agree with that. Key members are identified through distinction, personalities, or behaviors. These genres attentions and the lack of negative response elicited from the crowd as a whole stands as tactic argument to their legitimacy. The following formed the majority of the mob, as people tend to be creatures of conformity who are heavily influenced by the opinions of others. Right? Conformity, right? Who are heavily influenced by the opinions of others. This has been shown in the conformity study conducted by Sharif and, Ash. Crawford members are further convinced by the university phenomenon described by Al Port as the previous tendency of the idea that if everyone in the mob is acting in such a way, then it cannot be wrong. Emergent norm theory follows for both positive and negative mob types as a distinctive characteristics and behaviors of key figures can be positive or negative in nature. An antisocial leader can incite violent actions, but an influential voice of nonviolence in a crowd can lead to a mass sit-in. Right? Right? An antisocial leader can incite violent actions. Right? But an influential voice of nonviolence in a crowd could lead to mass sit-ins. Right? So we got that. When a crowd describes as above target, an individual antisocial behavior may emerge within the members. Right? When a crowd is described as above targets, an individual antisocial behavior may emerge within its members. Right? A major criticism of the theory is that the formation and following of new norms indicates a level of self-awareness that is often missing in the individual in crowds. As evidenced by the study of de-individuation, another criticism is that the idea of emergent norm fails to take into account the presence of existing social culture norms. Additionally, the theory fails to explain why certain suggestions in individuals raise a normative status while others do not. Pardon me 1 second here. I gotta find out what the fuck is happening in front of my fucking place, man. All right, all right, all right. Some people doing some construction. Never fails. Never fails. Right? Within members. others do not, suggesting a major criticism in this theory is that the information and following of new norms indicate a level of self-awareness that is often missing in the individuals in crowds, as evidenced by studies of, right, individual, whatever. Another criticism is that the idea of emergent norms fail to take into account the presence of existent social cultural norms. Additionally, the theory fails to explain why certain suggestions in individuals rise to normalization status while others do not. All right, so then we getting into social theory. I didn't set up my my ticker, so I'm gonna have to do it this way. All right, so change my headline. All right, put this in there. Social identity. All right, boom, boom, boom. I usually just put like the first line so everybody know where I'm at. All right. So let's put the ticket here and paste. All right, good. Social identity theory poses that the self is a complex system made up primarily of the concept of membership or non-membership in various social groups. See, this is where, I tell people when they understand Freemasonry and understand that it's groups. So then once you enter these different groups, this train of thought and this manipulation can take place because they have been setting up majority of the groups, right? Most personal salient, groups. These groups have various morals and behavioral values and norms, and the individual's actions depend on which group membership or non-membership is most personally salient at the time of action. And this is when I tell people, this saying hip hop is a culture. By doing that, by making that statement, right, it had put the promotion into play, meaning that whatever they put in the hip hop music, it was installed to be believed that this was the way it was supposed to be because this is a culture. This is the streets talking and this, right? So if hip hop was the streets talking, right, how is hip hop talking gay now? Right? How is hip hop feminized now? Was it always? So then that means that it's not a culture, it's a dictation and an implantation within your mind, the norms of what it's supposed to be. This is why I told people, like, listen, I don't, even though I love Tupac when All Eyes on Me and Me Against the World came out, I wasn't with it because it was promoting the destruction. Even though he himself had a right to be upset, it derailed the movement that he was saying and it gave credence to the destruction. And that's what the people picked up. The destruction, because nobody was really listening to Tupac on his first 3 albums. Sure, he had songs, Brenda, I Get Around and stuff, but people wasn't listening to his music. They wasn't understanding his message and what he was getting out until the message was beefing with his own. And then it resonated and radiated throughout the community. So this is why I tell people I do not subscribe to hip hop as a culture. And it's a brainwashing tool within our culture. Two different things. I don't even listen to hip hop. Anybody know me? Know I just listen to beats and stuff like that. I don't participate in that. Right? Okay. The influence is evidenced by finding that when the stated purpose and values of a group changes, the values and motives of the members also change. Crowds are an amalgam of individuals, all of whom belong to various overlapping groups. However, if the crowd is primarily related to some identifiable group, such as a Christian or Hindu or Muslim or civil rights activist, then the values of that group will dictate the crowd's actions. So when you see Black Lives Matters and all of these things, understand that these are socially engineered programs. That's why you'll see, white people engaged holding up Black Lives Matter flags to blanket them. They're hiding behind a system. Black Lives Matter, people fighting for their rights. So you have a predator group who will hide behind that and use that slogan to get what they want. But when you look, it's no black people in that crowd. Even when you seen like George Floyd protests and all of that, when you seen the riots and those are all set up, because every time you seen those incidents, you seen that it was white people facilitating, standing in the front and hitting spots that they needed to get rid of. You understand what I'm saying? This was an attack on certain things and hid behind the downtrodden, should we say, in America, which is the black plight. So in order to generate a system, you need somebody at the bottom so you can intertwine with them and push society in a certain direction. It's just what it is, right? In crowds which are more relative. Well, okay. In crowds which are more ambiguous, individuals will assume a new social identity as a member of the crowd. This group membership is made more salient by confrontation with other groups, a relative common occurrence for crowds. The group identity serves to create a set of standards in behavior. For certain, group violence is legitimate. In others, it is unacceptable. This standard is formed from stated values, but also from the actions of others in the crowd, and sometimes from a few a leadership type position. Right? A concern with this theory is that while it explains how crowds reflect social ideas and prevailing attitudes, it does not explain the mechanisms by which crowds enact to drive social change. You see, because as I was talking, I'm explaining to you how you can have these groups. You put out like this information and you put it in their hands. You tell them this is what we do, right? B's and C's. This is, folks and bloods or whatever. I mean, folk in People Nation, right? So now you have these groups. You tell them what they do. You tell them how they operate, and most of them are not even aware of this system that's being set up for them. All right. Now I wanna let's take it back over here real quick. Right. So I wanna get into some of these, but I'm not gonna do it right now. Like I said, this is a 6-month thing. So this is all the way to December. So these are just the things that I'm gonna go back into, right? We're going to do bystander effect. We're going to do charisma. And we're going to do class consciousness. Now, we will be going into any of these over here, like collective behavior, hysteria, consciousness, and unconsciousness. These are all the collectives. Right. Then we got the, crowd and power. We got wisdom of the crowd. Right, we got group behavior, we got group thinking, herd behavior, and herd mentality. The mass psychological of fascism, mass society, public relations, riot, vocus, the spirit of the people, and Wilfred Trotter. Right, so we'll be getting into that. This is, psychology. The symbol always like to have certain things there. Right. Also inside of this is all in confidence tricks. Right. We got the Badger game. We got Boiler Room Business. We got the Charlatan. We got confidence tricks in literature. We got confidence tricks in films and television. Right? We got counterfeit. We got a couple of different things. I'm all of these to some degree, not all, but like we'll be just touching on a lot of them. Right, because this is all for you to understand the game that's being played. This is the real game. This is ill. Like this psychology. This is all psychology. So you got to understand the game that's being played on you. So even as I went into confidence tricks, right? You see what I highlighted: quackery. So, I'd let you know we have never went off the topic of the medical field in its shams, right? The etymology of a shield, right? The origin term of shield is uncertain. It may be an abbreviation of shilliber. The word originally denoted to carnival workers who pretended to be a member of the audience in an attempt to elicit interest in an action. Some sources trace the uses back to 1914 or as far back as 1911. American humorist Benjamin Shilber from 1814 to 1819, who often wrote under the guise of his fictional character Miss Ruth Partington. An American version of Miss malaprop is a possible source. Right? So then we got internet, conflict of interest. We're gonna so let me put the internet up in here. No, you know what? We just until we get into the next thing. I keep the title up. Right? So it goes. In online discussion media, Shills make posts expressing opinions that further interest of an organization in which they have a vested interest, such as a commercial vendor or special interest group, while posing as unrelated innocent parties. For example, an employee of a company that produces a special product might praise the product anonymously in a discussion forum or group in order to generate interest in that product, service, or group. So when you hear people like this is another way of when you hear people say certain things, like if you like pseudoscience and when you hear these phrases, black is a social construct, the pineal gland, like these are triggers, and these are leading to the hypnotism, the mesmerism, right, of this, because that's basically what is this right here. This is the mesmerism and the hypnotism aspect of it. Like when you break those two things, these are how they look in real time, right? Interest groups, because they place it inside your brain while posing unrated. For example, right, an employee is that produces the product anonymously in discussion forums or in groups to generate interest in the product, service, or groups. Websites can also set up for the same purpose. When they have those little things in the corner or whatever the case may be. Same purpose. In addition, some shells use sock puppets where one person poses as multiple users. Trolls or whatever. Like I got my account. My account is not me. You know what I'm saying? It's another name. But you know what I mean? I'm not promoting anything for any group. What I'm doing is combating all of the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm doing. I'm not promoting anything. I'm going up against it. So yes, I do have sock puppets, sock puppet account. In some jurisdictions and circumstances, this type of activity is illegal. The plastic surgery company Lifestyle Lift ordered their employees to post fake positive reviews on websites. As a result, they were sued in order to pay $300,000 in damage by the New York Attorney General's office. Right, that's why I don't do that. I don't promote anything. I'm not there for that. I could point out people on my page where you can clearly see they are that. You can clearly see it at them, right? Reputable organizations may prohibit their employees and other interest parties, contractors, agents, etc., from participating in public forums of this or discussions in which a conflict of interest might arise, or will at least incite that their employees or agents refrain from participating in any way that might create a conflict of interest. Right? So like even when you play the lotto, it tells you if you have somebody who worked for them, you can't win. You're dead. Right? Gambling. And look, I even said, so both the illegal and legal gambling industry often use shills to make winning the game appear more likely than it actually is. Now keep attention here, because I always say this, right? For example, illegal 3-card Monte or shell game. Peddlers are notorious employees of shells. These shells are often aid in cheating, disrupting the game if the mark is likely to win. I like people I tell people when I was incarcerated at a robbery case. This was back in 90. When did I catch that case? I want to say I caught it in 94, but I was incarcerated in 95. Right, so I was in HDM. This is in New York City. This is on Rikers Island, right? Anybody who know HDM know how I was giving up. I was this is in 95. So this is when, the blood thing was really getting its feet in the ground in New York. I was already, affiliated with stuff, but I'm just saying, inside of that, I ran into a dude from Chicago who actually had a large influence on the New York City gangs. The whole, 5 popping, 6, all of that part really came, from this brother right here. He was an older dude than me. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm going to say like 19, 20 at the time. You know what I mean? And so, I knew for myself that I was moving on from, that career choice. So, he was doing the 3-card money. And now, mind you, me being a street dude, always known it, always, had ideas. But he, basically sold me the idea for $50. You know what I mean? Sold me the hand part. You know what I mean? Now, the other part you would have to learn yourself, meaning, how to put a team together. You know what I mean? So me, I always understood this logic, you know what I mean? And anything that I seen as a value, hey, in jail, I paid $50 for it. you keep that in mind. You know what I mean? So, right? Where they set up the mark likely to win. In a legal casino, however, Shills is sometimes a gambler who plays using the casino money in order to keep the game, especially poker, going when there's not enough players. The title of one of early Stanley Gardner's mystery novel, Shells Can't Cash Chips, is derived from this type of shill. This is different from proposition players who are paid a salary by the casino for the same purpose but bet their own money. Right? So then we go into the marketing. In marketing, shells are often employed to assume the air of satisfied customers and give testimonials to the merit of a given product. You see this on the internet crazy. Like I had a the minute I started dropping these jewels, right? You know, I have this lady on my webpage, on my Facebook, and they did it. They was, I guess they thought I was gonna grab on to the bitcoins and how they'd all given their testimony to how real this is, and like, man, y'all must really think that I'm an idiot, you know. And the reason why I'm pointing them out is because when you're dealing with Freemasonry, you're also dealing with the Eastern Stars. You can't talk about one without the other. It's impossible. You know what I mean? So when I was, doing the breakdown on Solomon's Temple, which I'm gonna give y'all, I'm gonna do that too, later. But I was just doing like a written, dialogue on it. And so with that, I I came to the conclusion, that they were in on it too. You know what I mean? Because of the actions that was taken. All right. So where we at? Okay, let's take it from the top. Marketing. Oh, I thought I should have put my all right. Got my clock running now. In the marketing, shills are often employed to assume the air of a satisfied customer and give testimonials to the merit of the giving product. This type of shill is illegal in some jurisdiction, but almost impossible to detect. Right? It's illegal to do this, but when you have a system with like Freemasonry where people are set up before time, how would you know? Especially if they make it look like they have no association. And I'm gonna show you this in their books, in Freemasonic handbooks, this tactics. Okay? So don't think that I'm just saying this and it is not going to be addressed. Right? Where we at? Impossible to detect. It may be considered a form of unjust enrichment or unfair competition, as in California Business and Professions Code 17200, which prohibits any unfair or fraudulent business act or practice in unfair, deceptive, untruth, or misleading advertising. Keep this in mind, because when I tell you about the Past Reparations Act, this stuff matters. These codes, right? These codes. This is gonna be on your complaint forms. These people right here is one of them. This ain't even close. This is like, these are, and this goes state by state. So when you understand what is about to take place, then we can, go further. Right? Auctions. People who drive prices in favor of the auctioneer with fake bids in an auction are called shills or potted plants, and seek to provoke a bidding war among other participants. Often they are told by the seller previously how high to bid, as the seller does not lose money if the items does not sell, paying only the auction fees. Shilling has a substantially high rate of occurrence in online auctioning, where any user with multiple accounts can bid on their own items. Never did that. All right. One detailed example of this has been documented in online auto auctions. The online auto auction site eBay forbids shillings to rules prevent shillings. Its rules do not allow friends or employees of the person selling an item to bid on its item. Right? And that's what I said about the lotto. Even on the lotto, it tells you the same thing, right? Even though eBay has no means to detect if the bidder is related to the seller or is in fact the seller, themselves. It could be the seller themselves, right? But peep game. In his book, Fake Forgery Lies in eBay, Kenneth Walton described how he and his cohorts placed shield bids on hundreds of eBay auctions over the course of years. Walton and his associates were charged and convicted of fraud by the United States Attorney's Office for their eBay shield bidding. So you can't get caught up. Don't think that they just because they don't got no way that they won't catch your stupid ass. With the proliferation of live online auctions in recent years, shield bidding has become commonplace. Some websites allow shield bidding by participating auctioneers. These auctioneers are able to see bids placed in real time and can then place counter bids to increase the amount. One proxy bid auctioneer's website states, at the request of the auction company, this auction permits bids to be placed by the seller or on the seller's behalf, even that such bids are placed solely for the purpose of increasing the bid. Right? So some sites, they like, yo, listen, we know what's gonna happen. It's all fair. If they lose out by overbidding, that's on them. Right? So, okay. See also Astrofling, right? Confidence tricks, corporate propaganda, false advertising, greenwashing, influencer marketing, propaganda, psychological manipulation, pyramid schemes, sock puppet, spin, public relations, and whitewashing, censorship. All right? Hold on, I got some fucking asshole in front of my fucking apartment yelling. Right? So this is what we have here. So after this we are about to actually go out. Let me go to a break real quick so that way we can get into this other part.